If you don't have a really, really good story, you're not going to be able to differentiate yourself.
Meet Pramukshi, Hospitality Marketeer of the Year Middle East 2024 and the force behind some of the industry's biggest brand stories. From cinnamon hotels to Shangri-La to now operating as a marketing and PR consultant.
Today, our attention span is actually less than that of a goldfish. If you haven't caught your readers or your users' attention in the first 3 seconds, you've lost them.
With 15 plus years across Sri Lanka, the Maldives and the UAE, she's seen hospitality marketing evolve from glossy brochures to digital-first strategies.
Staying raw and real and authentic to your brand today is extremely important in a very AI-powered world.
Yes.
Stay human.
How does a brand really focus in on their digital ID?
I really believe that the omnichannel presence is essential, and that means you've got to be showcasing your brand on all of those platforms. It's really as simple as that. If you are authentic to your brand, authentic to your personality, you will always stand out because there can only be one of you, provided that you know who you are as a brand.
This is an unmissable conversation packed with insights for anybody looking to shape the future of hospitality. Thank you so much for coming on the Digital Concierge.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be chatting with you again after some time.
I know. So we're going to let people eavesdrop on our usual conversations. So I will let you do the honor of introducing yourself.
Of course. I'm Pramukshi Kariyawasam. I'm a marketing and PR consultant. I run my own marketing consultancy called PK Integrated Communications. I've been in hospitality marketing for about 15 years. My previous role was with Shangri-La, and I'm here in the UAE, living it and loving it.
Nice, I love it. So 15 years experience. So you've seen a world of change, and you also worked in Sri Lanka and across different properties. So like what's been the biggest change? If you think back to when you started 15 years ago to now, what would you say has been?
So my background is in traditional PR, brand management. So I used to be that girl who used to write an article, have it edited by my boss 100 times and release it to the media. And then I'd be the one picking up all of the newspapers, checking for the clipping, and then cutting that up, compiling a PR report, which is something like a scrapbook, and doing a little victory dance every time I would see one of my articles in the papers, because PR meant print.
Yes.
Glossy ads were a thing, and brochures were a thing, and all of these things were in paper, and it was fantastic. So yeah, that was my background, and today
We have tools to do this now, so thank God for technology.
I know, thank God for technology, but also I'm just like, digital, everything is digital first. So I think that has been the biggest change for me. I think for anyone consuming media, I think this has been one of the biggest changes, really moving from traditional to digital, and how digital has not just been one of those bystanding channels that you have in your marketing mix, but the one that kind of takes the lead today. So I think that's probably one of the biggest shifts that I've experienced in my last 15 years.
Amazing. And I guess digital wasn't traditionally a part of press or PR. So how has that evolution happened? You know, we work with lots of partners and you have somebody that's a PR manager, but digital falls into this. So how did that happen for you? Or was that something you naturally took on yourself to focus on digital as well?
So obviously, because my background was initially in traditional PR and brand marketing, I then started evolving in my roles at my previous employer, where I was overseeing 16 hotels and resorts in Sri Lanka and the Maldives. So yes, from doing everything traditional, we then started seeing social media come in, travel bloggers and influencers come in. In fact, back in 2014, we dominated the space of travel influencers or bloggers, as we called them back in the day, to organize like a travel bloggers conference where we brought down travel influencers from all parts of the world for a tour of Sri Lanka and the Maldives, where They started blogging and creating all kinds of these content. And when we started being exposed to these people, we realized, oh my goodness, the world is already changing. And now there are these people called travel influencers and bloggers who are sort of owning that narrative and sort of taking that narrative forward. So yes, that was just one example of how we really sort of morphed into that digital space quite naturally. Because we did events like this, we exposed ourselves to experts in the digital space. Then, of course, I mean, obviously, your obvious social media platforms came into being. And we saw how much power they had over the brand and the brand's personality. We started seeing how people are interacting with our brand. Initially, when it had to be offline, initially, they wouldn't know your brand unless they had experienced it. Because as a hospitality product, you're selling a perishable, right? You don't get to take your hotel room back home. So unless and otherwise you've experienced a stay, you know what that feels like. You don't really know what the brand or the personality of that property or product is. But with digital, they get to know so much about your product way before they've come. So from inquiring about what you've got to experience, what your tours are, what your travel experiences are, what are your room types, to sort of bringing in this sort of synchronization where your customer or your future guest really feels like they already know so much about the hotel before they come. That sort of synergy happened thanks to digital. And that was good for us because it allowed us to kind of educate our guests in a more holistic and visual sense. Because before we'd be like, oh, have you seen our brochure? To now, have you seen our Instagram? You know? And on our Instagram, we had all of these really inspiring content because that's where people consume content. That's one of the many places. And that just really allowed us to speak about our voice and speak about our brand a lot more eloquently through a visual journey, really.
And you spoke about influencers, and obviously the term influencer has changed, and now we have travel influencers. Do you feel that travel influencers move better digitally or brands? Because I see influencers really owning a lot of the conversation, and they might own the narrative of a hotel. So they show, let's say, video room tours. Hotels aren't showing these. So a user is then relying on an influencer to walk around. So how do you feel about this relationship between what an influencer talks about versus what a hotel talks about?
So that's a really interesting question. And honestly, a brand versus X is always a question, right? For example, even if you take a brand's website, you're always like brand versus OTA. And this is the constant struggle, right? Who do you give more budget to? Because at the end of the day, both of them are expensive channels to operate, but then you're paying X amount, so much more to your OTA in terms of commissions, but they're also producing more versus your website. So it's always brand versus X. And even in this situation, and which one is more important? That's a tough question to answer, and it's a very loaded question to answer as well. Even in the situation of brand tours versus tours from a travel influencer, I can't tell you that one is more important than the other, simply because with travel influencers and the way that the world is today, where you're talking about real-time content, about content that's authentic in a very AI-powered world, right? Where everything is just, I don't even know what's real anymore, right? So real-time content is going to dominate, and the power of travel influencers are that they are able to create this experience real-time, which is important for consumers, because they get the scoop, they get it while it's hot, and they get a very
authentic.
Absolutely, authentic. And I'll talk about authenticity a little bit more as well as we go along in our conversation. But the authenticity is really, really important, and travel influencers bring that in very well. Having said that, I think brand tours are extremely important as well. I mean, personally, having dealt with and led 20 plus hotel brands in my career in the last 15 years, for us, brand tours and brand experiences have been very important because we are the brand.
Yeah.
So we know our brand, we know our brand's persona, we know our ethos,
Yeah.
we know
You want to own that narrative.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And for us, nobody can speak about us as well as us, right? And at the end of the day, when you talk about brand tours and especially showcasing that on a website, I would love to, by the way, touch on the piece you did for us, Holly, which was fantastic for the Shangri-La. This is ultimately your mouthpiece, right? This is the first thing that your future guest sees when they visit your website. So if you don't have a really, really good story, you're not going to be able to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
Because today, everyone's claiming to be good at everything.
Yeah.
And how do you kind of cut through that noise? How do you really showcase how authentic you are? And with appreciation for travel influencers, at the end of the day, they are also brands themselves.
Absolutely.
Their content style is a certain way. They're not going to be able to implement our brand voice, our brand guidelines, our brand tonality, because they are a brand themselves. So their narrative is going to be through their lens.
Yeah.
And that's completely fine. That's the whole
That's
power
the point.
of being, that's the point of the power of being authentic. But then does that fully fulfill the requirements of the brand?
Yeah.
Probably not, which is why you can't say one is more important than the other.
Agree.
You really do need to have both, because you as a brand need to be able to showcase who you are as a brand to its core.
Yeah.
And really talk about the different facets, our USPs, our emotional selling propositions and more, and really own our story. And that is why brand tours and brand assets and brand content and brand storytelling through the brand's lens is also as important.
Yeah, I agree. I think so many brands end up looking at it as an either or for budget reasons.
Cannot be an either or, no way.
And I think they lean in too much of, oh, an influencer's done it, so we don't need to. But to your point, as a brand, you're the gatekeepers of your brand. You should own that narrative. So no, I completely agree. I think it's, you touched as well on AI. So to come to this without making this a whole AI conversation, but we are in this era of wondering what's real, what's not. So do you then think that brands will lean more into kind of raw, authentic content versus being overly polished? Or how do you see that landscape changing?
100%, because I'll tell you why for a few reasons, right? Because today, if we talk about the human brain, there's such a thing called attention span regression, right? Attention span of people and attention span of us is reducing year on year on year. Today, our attention span is actually less than that of a goldfish. Now, honestly, please, it's
Definitely towards the end of the week, I can see that.
No, I'm telling you, every single day. And this is purely because of the nth amount of content that we are consuming.
Yeah.
It is unreal, and it just doesn't allow us to take a break.
Yeah.
And because of that, you really need to have that memory hook when it comes to really good content. If you haven't caught your readers or your users' attention in the first 3 seconds, you've lost them.
Absolutely.
Right? And the thing about AI content is now content gets churned out so much faster. And it is just so generic. It's not specific to your brand. It is not really doing anything to help you connect meaningfully with your audience, which is why 100% staying raw and real and authentic to your brand today, being raw and unfiltered, is extremely important in a very AI-powered world.
Yes.
I would say this is probably one of my most frequently spoken pieces of advice, which is stay human.
Yes, absolutely.
You really have to stay human. Yeah.
There's I might get this fact wrong, but I think they say now the data we consume in 1 year is what they consumed 100 years ago for their whole life. So we're just being inundated all the time. So then I think this point of differentiation, being authentic, But for me, it's also hotels need to lean into having a digital presence because
100%.
we're flooded with content. I was always taught this rule of cover the logo. Can you tell who it's from? So how do you think brands are missing a trick in terms of not having an identity? Because they lean so much into this beautiful hotel, this in-person experience, that I do think there's a falling short of the digital experience.
100%.
So how does a brand really focus in on their digital ID, would you say?
So I think that one thing that brands need to understand is that there needs to be an omnichannel investment, right? Because again, this boils down to budget, and I can appreciate that, right? Which is, oh, it's either or. And you really can't say, oh, social media or having a really good Instagram presence or your influencer marketing strategy trumps everything else. You just cannot operate like that, because, especially because today when you talk about ROI, and I'll talk a little bit about ROI because I've been a commercial marketer all my life, and ROI was something that was driven down my throat every single day. So it wasn't like, oh, doing
Wasn't just vanity metrics, how many likes do we have,
what
it's
is
the dollars.
Yeah, it was the dollars. It wasn't, oh, what's the value of your PR, or what's the engagement or the reach. It wasn't just that, right? And the thing about ROI is we often attribute ROI to the last click. It's always a last click attribution model, which is why when, for example, in hospitality, your revenue team is going to ask you, okay, marketing team, and this is a constant debate between revenue and finance, right? And marketing is always ganged up on. They're like, okay, what did you spend all of your dollars on? It really, according to the data and according to the stats, it shows that your Google ads are yielding or your social media campaign is yielding. So then why are you spending money doing PR?
Yeah.
Why do we need to do all of these different...
Why did you order these flowers for this event?
Correct. So why did you, send goodie bags to those media? Like, what did they do for us? Did they bring us bookings?
Yeah.
But the thing is, you can never attribute it to the last click.
Of course.
Okay, because today the user journey and the user experience is very convoluted. Your user or your customer is going to be probably seeing an article on Colleague and then closes that and then opens their Instagram and then sees an ad and then goes to the website and sees this beautiful hotel tour and then closes it and then talks to a friend. And then there's this whole conversation about a hotel stay and all of these different things. So how can you finally attribute the conversion just because of the one channel that they finally went and clicked on?
I spoke about exactly this at the ATM. So
right.
the average person goes on to 38 plus sites when they're in the mindset of booking. So then imagine when they're not. So this nature of platform hopping,
100%.
going to all of these different platforms to see the tagged photos, to see the prices, to see the
reviews,
reviews.
TripAdvisor, Google, and whatnot, right? So when you talk about digital ID, I really believe that the omni-channel presence is essential because of the user behavior.
Yeah.
You really need to be in market you need to have an in-market audience across all of your channels. And that means you've got to be showcasing your brand on all of those platforms. It's really as simple as that. Is it going to require investment? Yes. But repetition is key. Today we talk about, even as human beings, we are we are routines, we are habits. And repetition is really important because it leads to consistency. And repetition is really important even when it comes to brand presence, because having this omni-channel ecosystem is important because it allows for repetition. So that's extremely important.
And I think having that continuity across touch points, making sure that you show up in a similar way instead of, as you said, it's so convoluted and hoppy across platforms. So I think that, focusing in on your brand look and feel, what does that look like across platforms? How do we talk? What do we believe in? What do we stand for?
Exactly.
So I think for me, coming from FMCG, they were very good at having this brand footprint and asking ourselves, okay, what are our values? What do we believe? Do you feel that hospitality has that nailed digitally? Or
Listen, we have a very long way to go. I think that I saw this reel, or I saw this meme today on LinkedIn, and I laughed out loud when I saw it, which is this is the most expensive phrase that is said in hospitality. It has always been done like that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It has always been done like that. So why change now, right? And this is such an expensive phrase because it means so many different things. It means that we're not changing our product.
Yeah.
We're not augmenting our service offerings, because why fix what's not broken?
Yeah.
But today's traveler is changing, their demands are changing, their options are increasing. So if you're not going to keep evolving with your guest or evolving to the needs of your guests, then how are you going to stay competitive? How are you going to be able to keep offering something meaningful to them? And the thing that I sometimes wonder, or rather is interesting for me, is that brands always fear that if they try to change too much, they lose their identity.
Yeah.
But the thing about identity is you're not trying to be something else because that's what the market demands. You are simply becoming a more improved version of yourself. You are being more to what the client needs today.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're trying to change your identity. You are adapting, and that's extremely important.
And do you think that in hospitality, there's a challenge of people being used to marketing a hotel in person, that you suddenly are asking people to become digital experts? You know, because when you're marketing this product, you know, as you said, going back to, you would actually take the physical prints.
Yeah.
We're then requiring something completely different of somebody. So how do you think we can bridge the gap with this? Because digital is a whole different kettle of fish, right?
100%. And honestly, this is something I struggled with as well, because on one hand, you're like, oh, printed menu cards and like flyers and hey, check out our seafood night.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, it's digital everything. Influencers to UGC content to the whole gamut, right? And for me, I think bridging it really had a lot to do with the platforms that we use from a technological standpoint. One example that I can give you is at Shangri-La, we, from doing physical reservations at our restaurants, we migrated to a platform called 7 Rooms. So 7 Rooms, Open Table, they offer similar offerings. But 7 Rooms allowed us to it wasn't just a table management system, but it allowed for several facets of like marketing automation to tracking guest personas and behaviors.
Amazing.
Prompting us whenever we had a repeat guest coming or an anniversary coming, giving us our guests' preferences. 7 Rooms allowed us to do so much in terms of marketing and marketing automation as well, from creating a dedicated CRM for us to understand our guests' preferences, to understanding what type of meals they wanted, what type of anniversary, when was their birthday, when was their anniversary. So that really helped us connect with our guests offline, but thanks to online capabilities. So that was a really good bridge for us, because that technological platform wasn't only handling our reservations and actually our offline operational requirements, but it was also serving as a marketing tool for us, which was really yielding results. So that's one example, but also we'd work with, again, if I give you another example of working with influencers, it wasn't just kind of choosing influencers because they're beautiful.
That as well.
Right, but that as well. But because they added value.
You care about data, though. I think this is where we connected so well, because you care data, performance, the social intelligence behind it.
The whole gamut, right? So it wasn't, we'd use tools to actually understand whether this particular personality is relevant for our brand, whether they have an audience that could be our potential guests one day, whether their engagement is actually real,
Yeah.
whether their followers are real, whether any of their content is real.
Yeah.
We've used tools for all of these things to help us find those right profiles.
Yeah.
And when we do, the result is a lot more sort of quantifiable
Yeah.
in that sense. So really it's about doing meaningful things from a digital space and really proving it to our management. And we've been successful in that sense. Even when we do digital marketing campaigns, it's really about going into that micro segmentation and filtering based on our actual personas, because we have that data, we feed that data to Meta before we even run the campaign. It's not just a spray and pray approach, because then you get much more meaningful results.
Do you think that you have to have digitally mature leaders to operate in this way? Because a lot of what you're saying is more advanced for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Where I know that we're still trying to drive a digital IQ when it comes to followers does not equal business results.
Yeah.
So there are vanity metrics. So if you have leadership who aren't on the same page, like how do you work around that?
So actually that takes a lot of education in the most humble way possible, because the thing about trying to teach a leader or the management or educate a management about something that they don't know is that they may take that feedback positively, or they just may not. And that's a tricky place to be. So I think something that me and my team always do is we, take the liberty of doing these knowledge sharing sessions.
Nice, yes, I love a lunch and learn.
Right, but in just the most respectful way possible, because we're not at any point saying we're doing this because you don't know, but we're doing this so maybe you could know more.
Yes.
And I think that has really helped, because they've also then, that takeaway for that is that they actually do end up learning so much more.
Yeah.
And then we end up aligning or meeting halfway, which is more than we could ask for.
And at least with these kind of things, the proof is in the data.
Absolutely.
So there are so many things we don't need to be asking ourselves. It's like, okay, let's try it, let's test it.
Yeah. And for me, just about the topic of trialing and testing is that we do a lot of trialing and testing, and we do fail, and we don't always get our campaigns right. It's especially tough when you're doing campaigns in the UAE, because everyone's trying to fight for the same market.
Absolutely.
And, the customer at the end of the day has so much of choice. So we do a lot of trial and testing, and we do fail. So we call this A/B testing. But what we do is we spend a minimum budget on that A/B testing, and we fail fast and cheaply.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the most important thing. And that's something I always encourage that marketing teams do as well, because you really don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And unless and otherwise you test with different types of audiences, you're never really going to know if that audience could end up being a potential guest of yours. Because audience behaviors are ever changing, and you can't just fit a persona into a frame. You cannot fit them into a box and say, oh, he's a golfer, he's a corporate executive, he is 30 to 45 plus.
There's so many other things around that.
There's so many other nuances. And that's why you need to keep optimizing and re-optimizing as you go when it comes to your campaigns. And gone are the days where, those burst campaigns that we loved to do work, because today it's always on.
Yeah.
If you are not always on, you are going to get forgotten, especially in a market like the UAE, where, again, because of the choice and because of the clutter and because of the noise, if you're not always on, you're done for.
Because everybody's launching a new F&B offering. Everybody's got an offer. No, Ramadan is in.
Town, it goes on.
But I love that you do A/B testing, because I think the thing that pains me when I see a media plan, and it's just we're running one asset, one audience, a flat budget, and there's obviously so much insight. So you call it failure, but I'm sure you took so many learnings from that.
100%.
So then it's, what do you do with that information? How do you feed it in? So I think, again, that's quite an advanced strategy, because not everybody does that.
No, and another thing is, and this is something I fight and fought the finance department, I think, for like a good 15 years, right? Because when they look at the marketing budget, they're just like, okay, so this is how much of X thousands of dollars that you've spent and what is your ROS, right? Very simple question. And your ROS cannot be attributed to all of the marketing channels, right? Because a lot of them are doing awareness for you. Like, how do I tell you what the ROS is going to be on a PR activity? I can't. So something I always end up fighting for is a separate conversion budget and a separate awareness budget. So I'm very intentional about that. I'm just like, listen,
different activations, different objectives, different KPIs.
Absolutely. And I'm just like, and not everything is going to lead to booking. Because hello, we're not sales, we're marketing. And but thank you for treating us the same. But this is how it's going to work, because you cannot lose the brand's personality. You can't stop positioning the brand. You cannot stop telling stories about the brand. And all of those things come through your awareness campaign. You can't be a hard sell in front of people's faces anymore. They're just not going to buy.
They see through it. They don't like it. We don't always want to be sold to, especially when it comes to digital channels.
It has to be very, very subtle marketing. So there has to be, even when it comes to the marketing budget, there has to be a split awareness budget versus conversion. And I think, I'm sure this pain is felt by other marketing departments as well, but it is something I have consistently been fighting for and will continue to fight for as well.
Because PR, you become sales as well.
Seriously. I mean, we are glorified salespersons. I'm just like, why don't we just change our designation at this point?
You might get more budget.
I know, exactly. At least I get to travel and go for like vacations and stuff.
I want to talk quickly about an example that you shared. Was it the picture perfect room? Can you talk a bit about this? Because I love how that was insight driven. You watched a behavior, you made changes. Can we share this with people?
Absolutely. When I joined the picture perfect room, there was one that was already launched by my predecessor. It was her fantastic idea. And the idea was based on insight, listening to guests, listening to our KOLs who seemingly wanted to switch things around in our corner deluxe room.
Moving furniture,
right?
Why were they moving furniture?
They were moving furniture because there was a specific corner room, corner view that just give you this stunning view of the Burj Khalifa. And it was just a really nice location that was giving you this panoramic view of the city skyline, which was blocked by a couch. So what happened was our guests and our KOLs, they kept moving the couch to a side.
Literally dragging it around the room.
Dragging it around the room every time. And then I think housekeeping just had a nightmare every single time because they'd go and the couch would be somewhere else. And this was obviously, this was a sign. So then the thought was, okay, why not make this a more permanent change? And so the picture perfect room was created. Obviously, people who were coming into this room, they loved their pictures and they were doing it for the gram. So you needed to make this, you really needed to make this gram worthy. So we didn't just stop at putting the couch, we put props and all of those things. So the time I joined, there was just one room, but a couple of months later, there was 13 of them.
Oh, wow.
Right, 13 of them created. Now, I was tasked with marketing this new room category.
I love that.
Because obviously now there's been a significant amount of capex and investment that's gone into redecorating this room and
dragging those furniture
and putting day beds and, you know, making those permanent fixtures so that you have this unobstructed view of the Burj and the city skyline.
Which is what they're coming for, right?
Which is what they're coming for. But now I've got to tell them about it. Now I've got to tell everyone about it. I've got to tell everyone that we've got this fantastic new
this room exists.
Category. This room exists. It's fantastic. It's new. Please book it.
And how did that go? How did you market
So this was purely run through a UGC, a user-generated campaign. This was our main strategy, working with lots and lots of influencers. Some of them had already stayed with us in the past. So they knew our hotel, they knew our brand inside out, and they loved to talk about the Picture Perfect room because it was such an inspiring space. And it really works for influencers,
Of course.
right? Because they are, at the end of the day, content creators.
Yeah.
They do this full time. So it was really great kind of telling the narrative through them.
Yeah.
And that got us so much visibility. We didn't just use their content through their platforms, but we were able to get their content to run our own campaigns.
Amazing.
So what that did for us was it was very authentic, unfiltered, raw kind of stuff we were pushing out from brands' end, but created by content creators.
Yeah.
So that was very successful, and within the first year, we had a mammoth amount of incremental revenue. So, yay.
And you even put Polaroid cameras in
We
the room,
did.
right? Yeah.
Polaroid cameras, and all of these beautiful throw cushions,
Nice.
just super, super Insta-worthy. You could have breakfast on your daybed. And just every moment every space was created to inspire,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
And it's a great example of finding this user behavior, also
listening to your
listening.
guests' needs and responding.
Yeah.
And now people may say, oh, that's not very corporate of you, because at the end of the day, that was a room that idea came because of listening to guests' needs and user
Yeah.
behaviors, etc. Right? But if you take the brand itself, it's speaking more to the business customer who's, busy between
Not dragging the
meetings,
furniture
not
around the room.
dragging the furniture, just here for some productive meetings, leisure traveler even, business with a little bit of leisure afterwards, etc. So in terms of a typical buyer persona, in terms of exactly what the hotel or the brand was speaking to, this wasn't exactly a fit. But were you deviating from the identity? Absolutely not. Because this, in fact, fueled the brand's identity. It added more to the identity because it was novel.
And did it give you permission to access a new audience, would you say?
100%, because it allowed us to tap into a much younger audience segment. And that is and as a result, we were now expanding our market mix, which was fantastic. So there was a lot of wins with that one all around.
No, I love this example. I think so many people are looking for the Instagrammable place and crafting it themselves. And you probably wouldn't expect Shangri-La to respond, you know?
Exactly.
So if people saying corporate, I can understand that. So I love that example.
Yeah.
And so if we're thinking of, I like to think of pounds and pennies approaches, in terms of digital musts, what would you say to a brand, travel or hotel, that they would absolutely have to focus on? So we're talking, you've got no budget, but they really should do it.
So with pennies, two of the things that I would always say is consistency. Consistency and staying human.
Yes.
Because consistency is really important, especially for hospitality brands. Consistency in the space of service. Consistency in the space of everything we offer from a product point of view, whether it's F&B, etc. Because like I said, the industry is perishable, right? And especially with premium and luxury brands, luxury is consistency.
Yeah.
So this costs you nothing, but it is very hard to achieve.
Yes.
So this is extremely key. As long as you are consistent, and I don't think this only relates to hospitality brands and luxury necessarily. I think this relates to any brand.
Yeah.
You need to be consistent in terms of your identity and owning your identity and your space. And the other piece is staying human.
Which also doesn't cost anything.
It really doesn't cost anything, especially because we're so crowded and cluttered with all of the AI-generated experiences, and it's really hard to sift through what's real.
Yeah.
If you are authentic to your brand, authentic to your personality, you will always stand out because there can only be one of you, provided that you know who you are as a brand.
I think that's quite key because not everybody knows who they are.
They don't know because it's really about following the herd, right? Which is quite sad. Staying authentic and staying human is really important, costs you nothing.
And for the things that cost you a lot, what would you say in terms of digital?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having that omnichannel ecosystem, if you have the money, you need to be present across multiple touch points.
Yeah.
And not choosing one over the other, and not stopping one channel because it's not generating as much as the other, because not everything's going to give you short-term wins or short-term gains. Some of them are meant to be more sort of nurturing, whilst the others are going to give you those quick results.
More action-led.
Absolutely. So having that full ecosystem is key. And of course, invest in a really good video for your website, because that is your guest's first touch point at the end of the day before they arrive.
And do you think brand websites are a little bit unloved? Like, how is that perceived with hotels? Because at least from our perspective, you know, I feel like some brands are a bit late to the party in terms of incorporating video. There can be lots of highly edited photos or high renders. Doesn't feel like it nurtures the user journey. So how do you feel web is perceived?
I think that web, it has to be a front runner in the future. And it kind of shocks me that some hospitality brands haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
I think with both hotel chains that I have worked with, it has always been a website first approach, mobile first, mobile responsive websites, and all the rest of it, because at the end of the day, this is your asset.
Yeah.
This is a brand owned asset. If you look at the other sales channels, you don't actually own them.
Yeah.
But this is the one that you own. So if you are not going to invest the best in it, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know? So I think this is really, really important, and I think there's more education needed around this. This is also partly because behind the scenes, I'll tell you what happened. There's always this fight between sales and marketing.
Yeah.
The sales team is, you know, working on bringing in different segments, groups, corporates, MICE, all the rest of it. And then there's this one segment, which is retail, which is for website and online business, etc. So this always in general is like, oh, but you know, your numbers are small. But I think it's really important that more brands understand that website is your mouthpiece at the end of the day.
It's a hub asset, right?
100%. And the beauty of it is it can really do the storytelling for you. I mean, if you're going for a travel exhibition or a travel trade fair, it really should be as simple as opening up your website and allowing your customer to just feel inspired by what they see.
Yeah.
It really should be that simple.
Yeah. It should be the home of everything
100%.
that you have to share and tell, right? So to your point, I'm sure you have sales teams where they're jumping onto social because they get to show videos.
Correct.
Or I've got this press release I can also show you,
Yeah.
but actually it should be the home for everything.
100%.
So, and I think the way that marketing and sales work, they have a different idea of the persona. So something I spoke about again with omnichannel the other day is having a unified view of the user experience. So do you feel that's something that, have you practiced that with your teams? Is it hard to get to a shared view of that user journey? Sales having one view, marketing having another?
I think for us, it's a constant journey of show and tell.
Okay.
It's a constant journey of really sort of educating our teams, getting their buy-ins.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy road, to be very honest. But more and more, I think a lot of the sales teams understand the value, understand the benefits of having a really good website, because it makes their jobs a lot easier, for sure. And I think soon everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon. They have to.
Yeah, hopefully. Amazing. And is there anything else that you'll share when it comes to digital and your journey or evolution that you would want people to hear from you? No pressure.
I think that one thing that I would ask brands to do is to treat it, or treat the brand that they work for or they work with, as a human being. Treat it as a person. If it was a person, what is their personality? What makes
I
them
love this.
tick?
Yes, yeah.
If they were a song, what would they be?
Yeah.
If they were a book, if they were a movie, because it really helps you sort of understand the brand so much better in a very broad sense. And I always took the time with the 20 plus brands that I've managed to humanize them.
Yes.
Yes, they are meant they're a product, they were created to be sold. I can appreciate that. But if you add soul to it, it can be something so much bigger. So I think that's one thing that I love for brand managers and brand directors and marketing directors of companies to do, is to really see that brand as a human being, and
makes it more quantifiable as well. We used to run an activity of what celebrity would our brand be.
So I've done that doing positioning workshops.
Exactly. So like Johnson's Baby, I think it ended up being, what's the actress that played Kate Winslet? Oh God, I've forgotten her name now.
Kate Winslet is an actress.
No, the actress that played her, who was it? No, Kate Winslet is the actress.
That's what I said.
That is her. So she was for Johnson's Baby, and everybody knew her. So then it was, what does she sound like? What does she stand for? What does she look like? And I liked your example though of like, if it was a song, what would it be? Book, what would it be?
Because then it becomes a very sensorial experience. And you give it so much more depth. I mean, we as humans, we are a lot of things. But we have depth. We have depth because we stand for specific value systems, value structures. We have opinions, we have beliefs. We are authentic, we're different to each other, and we're unique to each other. And that's why we're different. If we can apply that same principle for a brand, imagine how different it can be.
Definitely. Especially when you're in the social space of what do we stand for, what do we believe in, we would always challenge, do we have a right to talk about this? So I think these are kind of like very accessible exercises.
Absolutely.
Have it written down. Everybody has the same understanding of who your brand is, not what your brand is, which is different.
Exactly. About knowing it as a who rather than a what. I think that changes everything, because then you can also understand how well you resonate with your customers today, with your audiences today. What values do you stand for, and how do those align with audiences? It's just a lot easier to draw those parallels when both are human.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I think that's very accessible for people listening. So one last question. I'm going to put you a bit on the spot.
Oh no.
Okay, for the leaders of the space, what do you think that they really have to be doing digitally? So the leaders of hospitality maybe it just comes back to omnichannel, maybe it's the personification.
You want to repeat that question?
The leaders of hospitality will. You can finish that as you like. I'm really putting you on the spot.
Wow, thank you for that. The leaders of hospitality will listen and understand their consumers in every sense of the word. And that's a very loaded statement.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very loaded, because listening and understanding means you're diving...
Two different things as well.
100%. You're diving into data. You are employing every aspect of your digital ecosystem to track their behaviors. You are giving them what they want instead of what you think they want.
Definitely.
So yes, it's all of those things, hence loaded statement.
Amazing. I mean, I didn't put you two on the spot. That was a great answer.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having this discussion with me. I think we can talk about all these different topics all day long. So thank you. And for people to connect with you or find out more about what you do, LinkedIn?
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll tag details. And obviously in this beautiful space we're in as well, we'll share that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And this was an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.